I call this meeting to the order. Welcome to meeting number 28 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendations from health authorities as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on Thursday, November 25th, 2021, to remain healthy and safe, all those attending the meeting in person are to maintain 2 meters physical distancing, must wear a non-medical mask when circulating in the room, and it is highly recommended that masks be worn at all times, including when seated. Must maintain proper hand hygiene by using the provided hand sanitizers in the room. Must refrain from coming to the room if you are asymptomatic. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. When you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute and your camera must be on. Pursuant to the order of the reference of Wednesday, May 4th, 2022, we will resume consideration of Bill C-242, an act to amend the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, temporary resident visas for parents and grandparents. First, I would like to welcome the sponsor of the bill, Mr. Kyle Seaback. Don't see him here. Yeah, okay, not a problem. We are joined by some officials of the Department of Citizenship and Immigration, Michelle Kingsley, Director General, Immigration, Alexis Graham, Director Social and Discretionary Policy and Programs, James Saylor, Director Immigration Program Guidance, Ben Michel, the Counsel. We are also joined by the legislative clerks today to provide us the advice. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming. When we are ready to start clause by clause consideration, I just want to inform the members of some instructions which we need to follow as we go through the clause by clause consideration. This is the first one we are having in this session. As the name indicates, this is an examination of all the clauses in the order in which they appear in the bill. I will call each clause successively, and each clause is subject to debate and a vote. If there are amendments to the clause in question, I will recognize the member who is proposing this, who may explain that amendment. The amendment will then be open for debate. When no further member wishes to intervene, the amendment will be voted on. Amendments will be considered in the order in which they appear in the bill or in the package each member received from the clerk of the committee. Members should note that amendments must be submitted in writing to the clerk of the committee. I will try to go slowly so that I allow all the members to follow the proceedings properly. If there are any questions, please raise your hand and get my attention. Amendments have been given an alphanumeric number in the top right corner to indicate which party submitted those amendments. There is no need for a seconder to move an amendment. Once moved, you will need unanimous consent to withdraw that amendment. During debate on an amendment, members are permitted to move sub-amendments. These sub-amendments must be submitted in writing. They do not require the approval of the mover of the amendment. Only one sub-amendment may be considered at a time. When sub-amendment is moved to an amendment, it is voted on first. Then another sub-amendment may be moved, or the committee may consider the main amendment and vote on it. Once every clause has been voted on, the committee will vote on the title and the bill itself, and an order to reprint the bill may be required. If amendments are adopted so that the House has a proper copy for use at report stage. Finally, the committee will have to order the chair to report the bill to the House. The report contains only the text of an adopted amendments as well as an indication of any deleted clauses. Any questions on that? Is everyone clear? Anyone needs any clarification before we begin the process? Okay. So, pursuant to the order of reference of Wednesday, May 4th, 2022, Bill C-242, an act to amend the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, temporary resident visas for parents and grandparents. We will begin clause-by-clause consideration. Pursuant to Standing Order 75-1, consideration of Clause 1, the short title is postponed. Now we go to new clause 1.1, Amendment NDP 1, 11777709, page 1 of the package. Would the member like to move? Yes, Ms. Kwan.
Thank you very much. Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to move the amendment. Should I read the amendment onto the record, or should I?
Is there a need?
Do I need to do that, or how would
you? Yeah, you
like
can read that.
Okay. All right. Then I would like to move the following amendment: that Bill C-242 be amended by adding before line 5 on page 1 the following new clause. 1.1 subsection 14.2 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act is amended by adding the following after paragraph C. C.1, special circumstances to be taken into account in the processing of temporary resident visa applications. C.2, a review process for decisions made in relation to temporary resident visa applications. Madam Chair, the reason why I like to move this amendment is so that there could be an appeal process in place for rejections. As we know, oftentimes people are not able to have their application reviewed after it's been rejected. The process to which available to them is extremely onerous, in many cases effectively not available. We know that there are extenuating circumstances that happen in people's lives. I cited during committee with witnesses examples, for example, with applicants whose application has been rejected because their financial situation had changed last minute for a short term, and then as a result of that, their entire application was rejected ultimately. So I'm moving for a process of an appeal system to be established, and for special circumstances to be allowed to be taken into consideration. The amendment does not spell out what that appeal process would look like. That would be left to the government to make that determination, to set up that structure. But however, the call for an appeal process be established is what this is about, and for special circumstances to be taken into consideration. I hope members will consider this.
Thank you, Kwan. I will have to give a ruling on this amendment. The amendment the member, Ms. Kwan, has just moved, seeks to amend subsection 14.2 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, which deals with regulations related to requirements and selection. The amendment also seeks to introduce a review process that is not contemplated by Bill C-242. As per the House of Commons Procedure and Practice, 3rd edition, states on page 771, I would read that, an amendment is inadmissible if it proposes to amend a statute that is not before the committee or a section of the Parent Act, unless the latter is specifically amended by a clause of the bill. Since Section 14 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act is not being amended by the Bill C-242, and also because the introduction of a review process is a new concept, this amendment goes beyond the scope of the bill. Therefore, it is the opinion of the chair that the amendment is inadmissible. And this ruling is non-debatable.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to challenge your ruling.
Yeah, just 1 second. Shall the ruling be sustained and we go into a vote? Yeah, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ali,
Yes.
Mr. Dhaliwal. Yes. Mr. El-Khoury,
Yes.
Ms. Kayabaga,
Yes.
Madame Lalonde,
Yes.
Mr. Benson,
Yes.
Mr. Genuis,
No.
Mr. Halan,
No.
Mr. Redekop,
No. Yeah.
Monsieur Brunet-Lissa,
Oui.
Ms. Kwan,
Yes. Sorry. I'm challenged the chair, and so
Yeah, we are voting. Yes, so we are voting on that the rule be sustained.
sorry, my apologies. I'm not sustaining the chair. My apologies.
We voted already, so.
Seven nays? Four nays.
Madam Chair, just a point of order. Yeah. 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 Just point of order, Madam Chair. I think there was some confusion among some of the members about the vote. It's not going to change the result, but I just think, out of respect for members, so that their votes can be on the record as they want it. If I think it sounds like there's a consensus to just retake the vote, to allow members to clarify their vote, so that there's not.
So we already have got a vote, and I made it clear that we are voting on that the chair's ruling be sustained. That's what we were voting on, and the vote has already been conducted. So
is there unanimous consent to allow any members who want to change their vote? If there's, okay, all right.
No, we don't have unanimous consent. So 7 yeas, 4 nays.
Motion?
So the ruling of the chair is sustained.
Can we suspend for a minute, Madam Chair?
Yes, we can suspend it for a
Thanks.
few minutes. The meeting is suspended for a few minutes. On that the ruling of the chair be sustained. That was the vote, that the ruling of the chair be sustained. The members who have voted yes are Mr. Ali, Mr. Daliwal, Mr. Al-Khoury, Ms. Kayabaga, Ms. Lalonde, Mr. Benson, Mr. Brunel de Sepp. And those who voted nay are Mr. Janis, Mr. Helen, Mr. Reddycop, and Ms. Kwan.
So
7 yeas, 4 nays.
on the point of order, we were seeking the unanimous consent of the committee. Oh, sorry. If maybe okay, I'll let someone else propose it then, if that will be better.
We're giving consent to change her vote because
Okay, all conversations should be addressed through the chair, no direct conversation.
we are only giving consent to change her vote.
Okay, so yes, Mr. Janis.
Is there a unanimous consent to allow members who wish to change their vote to do so?
I would bring in the Kwan should be the one that should be allowed to change the vote. Do we have the
But
unanimous
nobody
consent?
else.
Okay, so 1 second.
Doesn't matter.
There is no consent.
Agreed. There's consent. Yeah. Suk, yeah.
There is consent.
Like the House.
Is there a unanimous consent to allow the members to change their vote? Yes. Okay. Okay, Mr. Benson.
Yes, Madam Chair. I
1 second, let him
Vote
say.
properly.
It's sorry.
understand exactly.
Order, please.
I didn't exactly understand what I was voting on. I inappropriately voted yes. I should have voted no. So I would like to change my vote to no, if that's possible.
Okay, so Mr. Benson's vote is changed to nay, and we have 7.
Why didn't you ask us whether we want to change the vote?
One person at a time. Order, please. We. We have 6 yeas and 5 nays, so the ruling of the chair is sustained. Okay. Now we will move to Amendment G1. Please, attention, order. Amendment G1 11814-366. It's on the page 2 of the package which was provided. Ms. Lalonde, would you like to move the amendment?
I would like to.
Okay. Ms. Please. So Ms. Lalonde has withdrawn the amendment. We will now move to Clause 2. Any debate on Clause 2? Seeing no debate.
Can we just pause for a second, Madam
Okay,
Chair?
I suspend that for 2 minutes. So we are on clause 2. Any debate on clause 2? Ms. Lalonde.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to bring an amendment to the Bill C-242 in Clause 2, line 8 to 15, and I do have the amendment here in both official languages that can be shared to the member of the committee, if I may.
Yes, you can. So that amendment can please be circulated to all the members. I will suspend the meeting for a few minutes so that I allow all the members and the legislative clerk to have a look at the amendment.
We may have a problem in that if we suspend, we may not be able to resume if bells start. I do want to flag that.
The bells have started ringing.
So
So
if we suspend,
do
we-
I have the unanimous consent before we suspend the meeting that we can continue our meeting for like next 15 minutes?
It's fine with me, yeah. Technically, are we allowed to resume if there's UC to resume?
But if we receive a unanimous consent,
prior to suspending, we
yeah,
can, okay.
yeah.
Great,
If do I have the unanimous consent to continue to the meeting for the next 20 minutes? Yeah, the bells are ringing for 30 minutes. We can do it for 20 minutes, and then members can vote. Yeah. Okay. So I'll suspend the meeting for a few minutes in order to allow all the members to have a look at the amendment. Thank you. Ms. Lalonde.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motion that I am presenting as an amendment is for Bill C-242 at Clause 2 be amended by substituting at 15.11 the minister, first temporary resident visas, parents and grandparents. 15.11, the minister may give instructions respecting an application for a temporary resident visa made by a foreign national to visit a Canadian citizen or permanent resident who is their child or grandchild for an extended period in Canada, including instructions respecting selection criteria and conditions that must be imposed in respect of that foreign national, including the period authorized for their stay. 2, an officer must comply with the instructions before processing an application and when processing one. 3, an instruction that amends another instruction may, if it so provides, apply in respect of an application referred to in subsection 1 that is pending on the day on which the amending instruction takes effect. Publication. 4, the instructions must be published in the Canada Gazette. Act includes instructions. 5, unless otherwise indicated, references in this act to this act include the instructions.
Okay. I have got the amendment, and I would like to give my ruling on the amendment. Bill C-242 amends the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act to allow a parent or grandparent who applies for temporary resident visa as a visitor to purchase private health insurance outside Canada and to stay in Canada for a period of 5 years. The amendment seeks to add the possibility for the minister to give other instructions respecting applications for a temporary resident visa which are not contemplated by Bill C-242. The House of Common Procedures and Practice, 3rd edition, states on page 770, an amendment to a bill that was referred to committee after second reading is out of order if it is beyond the scope and principle of the bill. In the opinion of the chair, adding the possibility for the minister to give new instructions not envisioned in Bill C-242 beyond the scope of the bill. Therefore, I rule the amendment is inadmissible.
We can't support you, madam, all the time.
The amendment is inadmissible. So we will have.
I order. I bring a motion forward that I challenge the ruling of the chair.
So will shall the ruling of the chair be sustained? We will go into a vote. Madam Clerk. Shall the ruling of the chair be sustained? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ali,
No.
Mr. Dhaliwal. No. Mr. El Khoury.
No.
Madame Kayabaga.
No.
Madame Lalonde.
No.
Mr. Benson.
Yes.
Mr. Genuis.
Yes.
Mr. Halan.
Yes.
Mr. Redekop.
Oui.
Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe.
Oui.
Ms. Kwan.
Yes.
Six yeas, 5 nays, sustained. Okay, so you have to say the results here. 6 yeas, 5 nays, sustained.
6 yeas, 5 nays. So the ruling of the chair is sustained. So, yes. Yes. So now we are back on clause 2. Any debate? Order, please. Any debate on clause 2? Seeing no debate, shall Clause 2 carry. Do we have to take a vote?
Yes.
On division?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So,
Charles, let me speak.
clause 2 carried on division.
No. Okay.
You would like to call the vote? Okay,
yes,
Madam Clerk,
Madam-
please take the vote on clause 2.
On clause 2, Mr. Ali.
No.
Mr. Dhaliwal. Monsieur El Khoury.
Contre.
Ms. Kayabaga.
No.
Ms. Lalonde.
No.
Mr. Benson.
I vote yes.
Mr. Genuis.
Yes.
Mr. Halan.
Yes.
Mr. Redekop.
Yes.
Monsieur Brunel Duceppe.
Oui.
Ms. Kwan.
Yes.
Okay. 6 yeas, 5 nays. So clause 2 carried. Clause 3. Any debate on clause 3? Seeing no debate, shall clause 3 be carried?
No.
Okay, vote, please.
I'm asking a vote, Madam.
Yes.
And can I say why? Can I have?
No, like, we have to just vote. Vote, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ali.
No.
Mr. Dhaliwal. Mr. El Khoury.
Contre.
Ms. Kayabaga.
No.
Madame Lalonde.
No.
Mr. Benson.
Yes.
Ms. Genuis.
Yes.
Mr. Halan.
Yes.
Mr. Redekop.
I support this.
Monsieur Brunel Duceppe.
Oui.
Ms. Kwan.
Yes.
Six yeas, 5 nays. Clause 3 carried. Clause 4. Amendment NDP 2 11777-890. That's on page 4 of the package, which was provided. Would Ms. Kwan like to move that amendment?
Yes, I would, Madam Chair. So I would move that Bill C-242 in Clause 4 be amended, A, by replacing line 2 on page 2 with the following, quote, adding TION must prepare a report in respect of a reduction to the limit, to the mini, end quote, and then B, by replacing line 7 on page 2 with the following, quote, visit that child or grandchild, comma, including respect of any special circumstances to be taken into account in the process of temporary resident visa applications and a review process for the decisions made in relation to those applications. Madam Chair, this is related to the report back to Parliament from the Minister. Given that I wasn't able to get the appeal process and special circumstances to be amended in the Act itself as it was deemed out of scope, in the very minimum, I'm hoping that members will support having the Minister respond to this concept in the report back to the Parliament.
Before we go into any debate, I just want to make it clear to all the members that if in case this amendment by NDP is defeated, then NDP, the amendment number 3 brought forward by NDP will also be defeated as they are consequential. So, yes, Ms. Lalonde.
Madam Chair, I certainly appreciate Ms. Kwan's decision in moving this amendment. Unfortunately, I don't feel comfortable in supporting it. And I will say because While the government welcomes the opportunity to review existing super visa program criteria and prepare a report to Parliament on the current income requirements, including special circumstances, examining a review process for TRVs is beyond the scope of Bill C-242. If the committee wishes for the government to implement these changes to temporary residence visa more broadly, there should be a more comprehensive analysis of the issue before making legislative changes. Madam Speaker. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other debate? Yeah. So we decided that we will suspend the meeting 10 minutes before the vote. So it's 10 minutes. Can we, do I have a unanimous consent to continue for another 5 minutes?
Let's continue for another 10. I mean, we
5
have,
minutes,
we have an
we
app,
have to
right?
give some
So,
time,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So we have to. Okay, seeing no further debate, shall NDP to carry?
We would like a recorded vote.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ali,
No.
Mr. Dhaliwal, Mr. El-Khoury,
Count.
Ms. Kayabaga,
No.
Madame Lalonde,
No.
Mr. Benson,
Yes.
Mr. Genuis,
Yes.
Mr. Halan,
Oui.
Mr. Redekop,
Yes.
Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe,
Oui.
Ms. Kwan.
Yes.
So 6 yeas, 5 nays. The NDP 2 is carried. Okay. So now we are on clause 4 as amended. Shall clause 4 as amended be carried? Is clause 4 as amended be carried, or would members like to have a vote?
Would like to have a vote.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can you please take a vote on shall clause 4 as amended be carried?
Mr. Ali,
No.
Mr. Dhaliwal, Mr. El-Khoury,
Count.
Ms. Kayabaga,
No.
Madame Lalonde,
No.
Mr. Benson,
Yes.
Mr. Genuis,
Yes.
Mr. Halan,
Yes.
Mr. Redekop,
Yes.
Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe,
Oui.
Madame Kwan.
Yes.
Six yeas, 5 nays. So clause 4 as amended be carried. Okay. Is everyone okay with the pace we are going, or like members want to slow me down, or? Clause 5. We had an amendment, NDP 3, 11779836, which is on page 5 of the package which was provided by the clerk. Would Ms. Kwan like to move the amendment?
Yes, please, Madam Chair. So I move that Bill C-242 in Clause 5 be amended, A, by replacing line 19 on page 2 with the following, quote, adding the letters TION, does not provide for a reduction to the minimum income end quote, B, by replacing line 24 on page 2 with the following, quote, or grandchild or the circumstances or review process referred to in subsection 4.1, the minister must table in each, end quote. So this is a consequential amendment to the previous amendment that was passed, effectively asking that the minister respond to Parliament, including the issues around an appeal process and under special circumstances.
Ms. Lalonde?
Thank you, Madam Chair. again, I'm a little bit troubled, and I don't know. I feel I cannot, support this because currently a super visa applicant's host, child or grandchild, and a co-signer who must be the host spouse or common law partner, must provide evidence that they meet the income requirement, which is equal or above low income cutoff. The low income cutoff is and I quote, income threshold established by Statistics Canada below which a family will devote a much larger share of its income than the average family on the necessity of food, shelter, and clothing, close quote. A reporting evaluating existing income requirement will be an opportunity to ensure hosts are able to provide the basic necessity to their parents and grandparents for the duration of their extended stay in Canada, and I would say in addition to the other member in the family of household unit. So at this point, I don't feel I can support this amendment, Madam Chair.
The clock, 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes for the vote. We will suspend the meeting and come back after all the members have voted. Because we have to give time to the members to vote, like we decided 5 minutes. So let's. Yeah. No. Let's vote after the vote. 3, NDP amendment number 3 on the floor. Any debate? No debate. Madam Clerk, can you please take the vote on NDP 3 amendment?
Mr. Ali?
No.
Mr. Dhaliwal? No. Monsieur El Khoury?
Contre.
Madame Kayabaga?
No.
Madame Lalonde?
No.
Mr. Benson?
Yes.
Mr. Genuis?
Yes.
Mr. Halan?
Yes.
Mr. Redekop?
Yes.
Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe?
Oui.
Ms. Kwan?
Yes.
Six yeas, 5 nays. So the amendment NDP 3 carried. Okay. So we are on clause 5 as amended. Shall clause 5 as amended be carried?
Would like a vote?
Okay, Madam Clerk,
Mr.
vote on clause 5 as amended.
Mr. Ali?
No.
Mr. Dhaliwal? No. Mr. El Khoury?
Contre.
Madame Kayabaga?
No.
Madame Lalonde?
No.
Mr. Benson?
Yes.
Mr. Genuis?
Yes.
Mr. Halan?
Yes.
Mr. Redekop?
Yes.
Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe?
Oui.
Ms. Kwan?
Yes.
Six yeas, 5 nays. So clause 5 as amended be carried. Okay. Now we come to the titles. Shall the short title carry? Yes. Follow?
No, just kidding.
So carried.
Carried. Yeah.
Shall the title carry?
Yes.
Shall the title carry? Yes, Ms. Lalonde?
I would leave it to you, Madam Chair. I'm thinking that it may be amended, but no, because we lost the vote, so sorry about that.
Okay, so shall the title be carried? Yes. Okay. Shall the bill as amended carry? Yes. Okay, carried. Shall the chair report the bill as amended to the House?
Yes.
Okay. Shall the committee order a reprint of the bill as amended for the use of the House at report stage? Yes. Okay. That's it. Congratulations and
Madam,
for getting through this.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jennings.
Yes. Madam Chair, just in terms of the subject matter of the bill, I wonder if we can discuss, because there was an item that was ruled out of scope, and I know there have been cases in the past where committees have sought to make recommendations that relate to a bill, even when it's been determined that they can't make certain amendments. So I want to just maybe put that out there for discussion.
Nothing in regards to Mr. Jennings' question, nothing can be in this report. That will have to be a separate report. Ms. Kwan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if I can move this motion then, related to the work that we've just completed, and particularly to the motion or the amendment that I tried to move forward that did not pass. So I would like to move that the committee report to the House its support for the creation of the review mechanism recommended in the amendment, in the following amendment proposed to C242, that the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act be amended by adding a provision for special circumstances to be taken into account in the processing of temporary resident visa applications and a review process for decisions made in relation to temporary resident visa applications.
I'll suspend the meeting for 2 minutes
Perfect.
just to
Motion
have
to ask
the
a second.
opinion of the legislative clerk. I can have everyone's attention. I call the meeting to order. Ms. Lalonde.
Merci, Madame la
Thank you, Madam Chair.
an amendment to the motion of my colleague, and it would read, pursuant to Standing Order 108-2, the committee has considered C-242, an act to amend the Immigration and Refugees Protection Act, in bracket, temporary residence visa for parents and grandparents.
We have an amendment.
Just a point of order. Can I understand where that amendment is being placed in relation to the text of that?
I haven't seen the text.
One person at a time, all the conversations through the chair, please. Madam Clerk, have you been able to circulate the... Okay, so the motion which Ms. Kwan has moved, it will take some time to get it translated before it can be circulated to all the members. So would the members like to continue or suspend the meeting for a few minutes so that it is translated and circulated to all the members? Because it is not in both official languages.
Yes, please, because I need to make sure that what my amendment would be. That would be very nice, please.
Yeah, so we suspend the meeting for a few minutes so that the motion is translated and circulated to all the members. Okay? Meeting to order. I hope everyone has received in both official languages the motion which has been moved by Ms. Kwan. Ms. Lalonde moved an amendment to that motion. Ms. Lalonde?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. If I could have unanimous consent, as I was reading my amendment, I missed in my sentence, my last sentence of my amendment. So I would ask unanimous consent from my colleague if I could just read my last sentence, please.
Sure. Do we have unanimous consent? Okay. Ms. Lalonde, can you please read your amendment?
Yes. So the way it would be is that we would be striking that the committee report to the House and add that pursuant to Standing Order 108-2, the committee has considered C-242, an act to amend the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, bracket temporary residence visa for parents and grandparents, comma, and wishes to make the following recommendation to the government and wishes to express its support for the creation of the review mechanism recommended in the following amendment proposed to C-242. To C-242.
Okay, so we have an amendment proposed by Ms. Lalonde. Mr. Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I want to thank Madam Lalonde for bringing this amendment forward, and of course, Madam Kwan for bringing the amendment to this as well. But most importantly, we had to go back to the member that has brought this bill forward, Mr. Seebeck. In the last meeting, Madam Chair, you have probably noticed that I congratulated him starting this conversation, because this topic of super visa for the parents and grandparents is a very, very important issue, that we are facing in our constituencies. And I also want to thank and congratulate the Minister, Sean Fraser, as well, acting so fast to bring in the super visa limit, to 5 years and then extending it for 2 more years, and they can stay here till, for 10 years, and also considering the insurance companies. Madam Chair, I come from a riding of Surrey Newton, which is a very diverse riding. 120 languages are spoken in that riding, and there are over 65 different communities that live in I guess if Madam Kwan feels that this is a filibuster, then I will stop and take a vote on this motion as well, please. I wanted to put a very, very thoughtful process into this, what can be done and what can't be, and let's take a vote then, and then I'll start speaking probably to the amendment if it passes.
Ms. Lalonde?
Well, as my colleague was stating, I think there was a lot of goodwill all throughout this process that took place to try to bring forward the consideration. And it's very interesting for me that in the spirit of collaboration that we've started, and when I think about C-242, and I think my colleagues and on both sides, we realize the importance of this, and to see, and I have to say, I did congratulate Mr. Seebeck myself, because I was very happy to see the goodwill that was done in this committee, Madam Chair. Merci.
Thank you. An amendment on the floor, which has been moved by Ms. Lalonde. Seeing no debate, we can vote on the amendment proposed by Ms. Lalonde. Madam Clerk?
Vote on the amendment. Mr. Ali.
Yes.
Mr. Dhaliwal.
Yes.
Mr. El Khoury.
Pour.
Madame Kayabaga.
Pour.
Madame Lalonde.
Oui.
Mr. Benson.
Mr. Benson, you are on mute.
I vote no.
Mr. Fast,
No.
Mr. Hallan,
No.
Mr. Redekop,
No.
Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe,
No.
Ms. Kwan.
No.
Six nays, 5 yeas, so the amendment is defeated. So we have a motion on the floor moved by Ms. Kwan. Mr. Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I really feel very passionate about this topic, and even though some members might feel the other way around, but I would love to take my time here to talk about this bill that is in front of this committee.
Filibuster.
Madam Chair, as I earlier said, that I come from Surrey Newton, which is a very, very diverse riding, 65 different countries.
First, you can steal the bill and.
One member is speaking, so please allow the member to speak. Mr. Dhaliwal has the floor. I would like to ask all the members to maintain order at the
But
committee,
I'm not
and
gonna be
the
longer.
floor is Mr. Dhaliwal's.
Madam Chair, I'm going to be very short and sweet, then I'm going to ask the vote to come. And if you can give me an opportunity, okay?
You
So
can
without disturbance, some friends of mine on the other side, Madam Chair, I have tremendous amount of respect. Let's start with Mr. Hallan. Jasraj Singh Hallan. He comes from Calgary Forest Lawn, and if you look back, Madam Chair, I immigrated to Canada, and my first stop in Canada was in Calgary, and Calgary was home to me, and my two daughters were born in Calgary, and I understand how diverse his riding is, and the amount of work that he does, not only in his riding of Forest Lawn, but other ridings that come to him as well. And I'm sure, Madam Chair, Mr. Hallan, my younger brother-like friend, would be able to appreciate the importance of this super visa and also the appeal process. But at the same time, we got to be efficient in the House as well. When we bring this to the House, we got to make sure that we act in a way that we do not stand in the way of House proceedings. So, taking that into consideration, Madam Chair, I think I should say that I should not exclude Mr. Brunel-Duceppe. Mr. Brunel-Duceppe, I just wanted to tell you, I come from the riding. It's very diverse, and there is a lot of new Francophone community that's moving into my riding, and I'm very proud that there is a École Gabriel Roy school there, even though the students are bused into that school, but I have seen elderly parents bringing their grandchildren to that school in person as well. So it's affecting every single community, as I'm a big supporter of the Francophone community outside of Quebec to have their 4.4% representation outside of Quebec. So it's affecting every family. So super visa is a very key to the community in Surrey Newton and across many other communities. And I certainly would love to support the super visa process, but at the same time, Minister has shown the leadership and he had brought those changes. So I would, with that, Madam Chair, I want to thank you and the other committee members. I think are getting anxious to go. Okay, thank you.
Please maintain order. Don't have side conversations, and all the conversations to be addressed to the chair. Mr. Dhaliwal, thank you. Seeing no further hand raised, can we call for the vote? Madam Clerk, if you can please take the vote on the motion brought by Ms. Kwan.
Mr. Ali,
No.
Mr. Dhaliwal. No. Monsieur El Khoury.
No. No.
Madame Kayabaga.
No.
Madame Lalonde.
No.
Mr. Benson.
Yes.
Mr. Fast.
Strong yes.
Mr. Hallan.
Yes.
Mr. Redekop.
Yes.
Monsieur Brunel-Duceppe.
Oui.
Ms. Kwan.
Wait.
Okay, so the result of the vote is 6 yeas, 5 nays. 6 yeas, 5 nays. The motion is passed. Okay. We are past 1 o'clock, so the meeting is now adjourned.